Is it you that's going meow, Frankie, or is it Jen?
Meow.
Our cat is so confused. Yes, people all around the world are now imitating you, baby. You're just looking around confused.
Sorry, kitten. Sorry, kitten.
Frankie, you look so hot with facial hair.
Oh,
Thank you so much. I feel quite hot with facial hair. I've always wanted to grow a beard. I think I have the jawline for a beard.
You have the jawline for anything, Frankie.
You stab. How are you doing?
Your present arrived and I sent it to you.
You want my done?
Your present arrived.
My present?
Yeah. and me and Nick thoroughly quality checked it.
Well,
Does that mean you had sex with it? What's that a euphemism for? I can't tell. Nick is
Just
like
a cat thing.
just slightly on camera, and so it was just this like lovely little kind of face appearing at the edge of the screen, licking. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. It's making me feel some kind of way. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it.
Rory, you look glorious.
Oh, I haven't even scrolled past. Hello, everybody.
Just wait till you see our
Oh!
Indian into werewolves.
meow.
Yeah, we're a couple of lady dwarves. We've been cooking up a storm and we made dwarvish battle bread.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I hope it is inedible.
Well, we'll see.
One way to find out, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I braided some fucking dough for this shit.
The battle began for Iron Blood Axe. And the other thing that we did.
It's so phallic.
Do you
It's so phallic.
want to show these off?
Yes, I want to show these off. Do you guys want to see what we were doing all afternoon?
Yes.
We made,
Well,
we
we are recording.
Huh?
But we are recording.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's fine. We made gingerbread golems. Those ones. But we also made the gingerbread golem king.
That's pretty cool.
Oh my god, that's so good.
And a shattered Dorful. Poor Dorful.
Oh.
And we made a gingerbread dragon the vampire who's standing in a pool of blood. Obviously.
You made so many fucking golems.
We made so many fucking golems.
You folks are the fucking coolest.
I kept eating them while yelling shame, sorrow.
Clay of my clay. Gingerbread of my gingerbread.
Rory, what do you have on your head, my love?
Regulation helmet, and definitely not an old curry bowl. So
Is there a difference?
this is my detritus cosplay.
Incredible.
I didn't have any elephant armor.
Can I may I show off this this fabulous thing? Look at this. Look. Yes.
What's it say?
The storyteller.
It's fucking amazing.
Oh, Bina, well done.
I'm so glad you like it and that it fits. I would like also shout out to both mics for being like, obviously she's gonna like it. Stop stressing the fuck out for the last 24 hours.
I absolutely love it, and it fits like a goddamn dream. I'm not kidding when I say I cannot get jackets that fit. Look how beautifully this fits on my arm.
The sleeves look so good.
It's the exact perfect length, and it sits on my shoulders. It, the lining. It's so great, and I love it, and I love you. Thank you.
Glad you like it.
You know, I told you were getting some flippin' awesome presents from some wonderful humans.
I've had some very, very wonderful presents, and I got a beautiful looking book from Jen and Neville, which looks absolutely goddamn adorable. I got a lovely like hanging decoration from Ivan, with wood from his neighbour's tree with my face printed on it. I'm like, what? This is wonderful. Right, who else have we got? Hi, Michael. Hi, Em. Hi, Martin. Nice jacket. And we've got hi, Ainsley. Hi, Andrada. I received a Christmas card from Michael today. There are so many options there. So whichever Michael it was, thank you very much.
Basically the same as anonymous.
Well, if I send you a belated one, I'll just sign it. The other Michael.
Yeah. One of the many honorary Michaels.
Hey, Ariane.
Hi, Ariane. Hi, sweetness.
I caught up just in time.
Oh, it's so nice to have you in for the big finish.
I'm so excited. I loved it.
Excited to have you here. Who else? Hi, Sean. Hi, Tris.
Hello.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
You look so badass.
You do. You do. You look so snuggly in your lovely hat.
Before we start today, can I request what happened in the last 10 minutes? Because I had a disciplinary panel today, and then not for me. Like, I was clerking it and it ran over. And then I hosted a student rep social, and I've come straight from that to this. And I haven't had dinner yet. And I caught up on the first 50 minutes, and I'm still missing like 10 minutes. So if we could have a summary of where we ended, that would be really nice.
Absolutely. Can you remember where you heard up to? What was happening the last that you heard?
They had maybe Cherry had just been rescued and found out, spoiler, that Angua is a werewolf.
Oh yes.
What?
Yes. Okay. Doop. Bear with me. Yes. Detritus and Carrot came into Igneous the Troll's warehouse, and they were carrying the dolphin bits between them, and they were all like, and he was like, "You can't break in here," and they broke in there, and he was like, "I'm not going to help you," and Detritus was like, "Oh, look, I've smashed this statue and it's full of drugs. Now are you going to help us?" He was like, "Yeah, maybe. I guess I'll help you now." And then he and Carrot was like, make him again. Use as much clay as possible from the old clay and give him a tongue. And he was all like, "I'm not going to do that." And they were all like, "Yes, you are." And he was like, "Yes, I will." So he rebaked Dorf in his oven. And then Vimes was thinking and had not been sleeping enough and doing too much thinking. And he worked out something. So he had a something. He was like, "Ah!" But we don't know what it is yet. And then he came to find Carrot and Detritus, and they were all asleep. And he was like, "Man, I can't wake them up. They've had it hard." And then Dorf came out of the kiln, rebuilt anew. And Vimes was like, you come with me." Dorf was like, "Yes." That and that.
That's right, Kant. That's right.
Hi, Malcolm.
Oh, I haven't visibilized myself.
You incarnate specially for us.
I am ready, just out of the kiln.
Straight out of the kiln.
Glowing hot and orange.
Now, what time is it? What time is it?
Story time.
Is it story time?
Story time.
21:12. Hand vomit time.
Right, I'm going to mute Cat and also everybody else. Okay. Final part. Feet of Clay by Terry Pratchett. Oh, this has been so good. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Dragon King of Arms stepped into his library. The dirt of the small high windows and the remnants of the fog made sure there was never more than greyness here, but 100 candles yielded their soft light. He sat down at his desk, pulled a volume towards him, and began to write. After a while, he stopped and stared ahead of him. There was no sound but the occasional spluttering of a candle. "I can smell you, Commander Vimes," he said. "Did the heralds let you in?" "I found my own way, thank you," said Vimes, stepping out of the shadows. The vampire sniffed again. "You came alone?" "Who should I have brought with me?" "And to what do I owe the pleasure, Sir Samuel?" "The pleasure is all mine. I'm going to arrest you," said Vimes. "Oh dear. For what, may I ask?" "Can I invite you to notice the arrow in this crossbow?" said Vimes. "No metal on the point, you'll see. It's wood all the way." "How very considerate." Dragon King of Arms twinkled at him. "You still haven't told me what I'm accused of, however." "To start with, complicity in the murders of Mrs. Flora Easy and the child William Easy." "I'm afraid those names mean nothing to me." Vimes's finger twitched on the bow's trigger. "No," he said, breathing deeply. "They probably don't. We are making other inquiries, and there may be a number of additional matters. The fact that you are poisoning the patrician I consider a mitigating circumstance." "You really intend to prefer charges?" "I'd prefer violence," said Vimes loudly. "Charges is what I'm going to have to settle for." The vampire leaned back. "I hear you've been working very hard, Commander," he said. "So I will not—" "We've got the testimony of Mr. Carey," said Vimes. "The late Mr. Carey." Dragon's expression changed by not one tiny tremor of muscle. "I really do not know what you are talking about, Sir Samuel." "Only someone who could fly could have gotten into my office." "I'm afraid you've lost me, sir." "Mr. Carey was killed tonight," Vimes went on, "by someone who could get out of an alley guarded at both ends. And I know a vampire was in his factory." "I'm still gamely trying to understand you, Commander," said Dragon King of Arms. "I know nothing about the death of Mr. Carey, and in any case, there are a great many vampires in the city. I'm afraid your aversion is well known." "I don't like to see people treated like cattle," said Vimes. He stared briefly at the volumes piled in the room. "And of course, that's what you've always done, isn't it? These are the stock books of Ankh-Morpork." The crossbow swung back towards the vampire, who hadn't moved. "Power over little people. That's what vampires want. The blood is just a way of keeping score. I wonder how much influence you've had over the years." "A little. You are correct there, at least." "A person of breeding," said Vimes. "Good grief. Well, I think people wanted veterinary out of the way. but not dead yet. Too many things had happened too fast if he were dead. Is Nobby really an earl? The evidence suggests so. But it's your evidence, right? You see, I don't think he's got noble blood in him. Nobby's as common as muck. It's one of his better points. I don't set any score by the ring. The amount of stuff his family's nicked, you could probably prove he's the Duke of Pseudopolis, the Seraph of Clatch, and the Dowager Duchess of Quirm. He pinched my cigar case last year, and I'm damn certain he's not me. No, I don't think Nobby is a knob, but I think he was convenient. It seemed to Vimes that Dragon was getting bigger, but perhaps it was only a trick of the candlelight. The light flickered as the candles hissed and popped. You made good use of me, eh? Vimes carried on. I'd been ducking out of the appointments with you for weeks. I expect you were getting quite impatient. You were so surprised when I told you about Nobby, eh? Otherwise you'd have had to send for him or something, or very suspicious. But Commander Vimes discovered him. That looks good. Practically makes it official. And then I started thinking, who wants a king? Well, nearly everyone. It's built in. Kings make it better. Funny thing, isn't it? Even those people who owe everything to him don't like Vetinari. 10 years ago, most of the guild leaders were just a bunch of thugs, and now, well, they're still a bunch of thugs, to tell the truth, but Vetinari's given them the time and energy to decide they never needed him. And then young Carrot turns up with charisma writ all over him, and he's got a sword and a birthmark, and everyone gets a funny feeling, and dozens of buggers start going back through the records and say, hey, looks like the king's come back. And then they watch him for a while and say, shit, he really is decent and honest and fair and just like in all the stories. Whoops. If this lad gets on the throne, we could be in serious trouble. He might turn out to be one of them inconvenient kings from long ago who wanders around talking to the common people. You are in favour of the common people, said Dragon mildly. The common people, said Vimes. They're nothing special. They're no different from the rich and powerful, except they've got no money or power. But the law should be there to balance things up a bit. So I suppose I've got to be on their side. A man married to the richest woman in the city. Vimes shrugged. The watchman helmet isn't like a crown. Even when you take it off, you're still wearing it. That's an interesting statement of position, Sir Samuel, and I would be the first to admire the way you've come to terms with your family history, but don't move. Vimes shifted his grip on the crossbow. Anyway, Carrot wouldn't do, but the news was getting around and someone said, right, let's have a king we can control. All the rumours say the king is a humble watchman, so let's find one. And they had a look and found that when it comes to humble, you can't beat Nobby Nobs. But I think people weren't too sure. Killing Vetinari wasn't an option. As I said, too many things would happen too fast. But to just gently remove him so that he's there and not there at the same time, while everyone tried out the idea, that was a good wheeze. That's when someone got Mr. Carey to make poison candles. He'd got a golem. Golems can't talk. No one would know. But it turned out to be a bit erratic. You seem to wish to involve me, said Dragon King of Arms. I know nothing about this man other than that he's a customer. Vimes strode across the room and pulled a piece of parchment from a board. You did him a coat of arms, he shouted. You even showed me when I was here. The butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. Remember? There was no sound now from the hunched figure. When I first met you the other day, said Vimes, you made a point of showing me Arthur Carey's coat of arms. I thought it was a bit fishy at the time, but all that business with Nobby put it out of my mind. But I do remember it reminded me of the one for the Assassin's Guild. Vimes flourished the parchment. I looked and looked at it last night, and then I wound my sense of humour down 10 notches and let it go out of focus and looked at the crest, the fish-shaped lamp. Lampe au poisson, it's called. A sort of bilingual play on words, perhaps. A lamp of poison. You've got to have a mind like old detritus to spot that one. And Fred Colon wondered why you'd left the motto in modern Ankian instead of putting it into the old language. And that made me wonder. So I sat up with a dictionary and worked it out. And, you know, it would have read, Ars enixa est candelam. Ars enixa. That must have really cheered you up. You said who did it and how it was done, and you gave it to the poor bugger to be proud of. It didn't matter that no one else would spot it. It made you feel good. Because we ordinary mortals just aren't as clever as you, are we? He shook his head. Good grief. A coat of arms. Was that the bribe? Was that all it took? Dragon slumped in his chair. And then I wondered, what was in it for you? Continued Vimes. Oh, there's a lot of people involved, I expect, for the same old reasons. But you? Now, my wife breeds dragons. Out of interest, really. Is that what you do? A little hobby to allow the centuries to fly by? Or does blue blood taste sweeter? You know, I hope it was some reason like that. Some decent, mad, selfish one. Possibly. And if someone was so inclined, and I certainly make no such admission, they might simply be thinking of improving the race, said the shape in the shadows. Breeding for receding chins or bunny teeth, that sort of thing, said Vimes. Yes, I could see where it'd be more straightforward if you had the whole king business. All those courtly balls, all those little arrangements which see to it that the right kind of girl meets only the right kind of boy. You've had hundreds of years, right? And everyone consults you. You know where all the family trees are planted. But it's all got messy under veterinary, hasn't it? All the wrong people are getting to the top. I know how Sybil curses when people leave the pen gates open. Really messes up her breeding programme. You are wrong about Captain Carrot. The city knows how to work around difficult kings. But would it want a future king who might really be called Rex? Vimes looked blank. There was a sigh from the shadows. I am referring to his apparently stable relationship with the werewolf. Vimes stared. Understanding eventually dawned. You think they'd have puppies? The genetics of werewolves are not straightforward, but the chance of such an outcome would be considered unacceptable if someone were thinking on those lines. By gods. And that's it. The shadows were changing. Dragon was still slumped in his chair, but his outline seemed to be blurring. Whatever the motives, Mr. Vimes, there is no evidence other than supposition and coincidence, and your will to believe that links me with any attempt on Veterinary's life. The old vampire's head was sunk even further in his chest. The shadows of his shoulders seemed to be getting longer. It was sick involving the golems, said Vimes, watching the shadows. They could feel what their king was doing. Perhaps it wasn't even very sane to begin with, but it was all they had. Clay of their clay. The poor devils didn't have anything except their clay, and you bastards took away even that. Dragon leapt suddenly, bat wings unfolding. Vimes's wooden bolt clattered somewhere near the ceiling as he was borne down. You really thought you could arrest me with a piece of wood, said Dragon, his hand around Vimes's neck. No, Vimes croaked. I was more poetic than that. All I had to do was to keep you talking. Feeling weak, are you? The biter bit, you might say. He grinned. The vampire looked puzzled, and then turned his head and stared at the candles. You put something in the candles? Really? We knew garlic would smell, but our alchemist reckoned that if you get holy water, soak the wicks, water evaporates, just leaves holiness. The pressure was released. Dragon King of Arms sat back on his haunches. His face had changed, shaping itself forward, giving him an expression like a fox. Then he shook his head. No, he said, and this time it was his turn to grin. No, that's just words. That wouldn't work. Bet you're on life, rasped Vimes, rubbing his neck. A better way than old Carrie went, eh? Trying to trick me into an admission, Mr. Vimes? Oh, I had that, said Vimes, when you looked straight at the candles. Really? But who else saw me? Said Dragon. From the shadows there was a rumble like a distant thunderstorm. I did, said Dwarf. The vampire looked from the golem to Vimes. You gave one of them a voice, he said. Yes, said Dwarf. He reached down and picked up the vampire in one hand. I could kill you, he said. This is an option available to me as a free-thinking individual, but I will not do so because I own myself and I have made a moral choice. Oh, God, murmured Vimes under his breath. That's blasphemy, said the vampire. He gasped as Vimes shot him a glance like sunlight. That's what people say when the voiceless speak. Take him away, Dwarf. Put him in the palace dungeons. I could take no notice of that command, but am choosing to do so out of earned respect and social responsibility. Yes, fine, said Vimes quickly. Dragon clawed at the golem. He might as well have kicked at a mountain. Undead or alive, you are coming with me, said Dwarf. Is there no end to your crimes? You've made this thing a policeman, said the vampire, struggling as Dwarf dragged him away. No, but it's an intriguing suggestion, don't you think? Said Vimes. He was left alone in the thick, velvety gloom of the Royal College. And Vetinari will let him go, he reflected, because this is politics, because he's part of the way the city works. Besides, there's the matter of evidence. I've got enough to prove it to myself, but I'll know, he told himself. Oh, he'll be watched, and maybe one day when Vetinari is ready, a really good assassin will be sent with a wooden dagger soaked in garlic, and it'll all be done in the dark. That's how politics works in this city. It's a game of chess. Who cares if a few pawns die? I'll know. And I'll be the only one who knows, deep down. His hands automatically patted his pockets for a cigar. It was hard enough to kill a vampire. You could stake them down and turn them into dust, and 10 years later someone spills a drop of blood in the wrong place, and guess who's back? They returned more times than raw broccoli. These were dangerous thoughts, he knew. They were the kind that crept up on a watchman when the chase was over and it was just you and him, facing one another in that breathless little pinch between the crime and the punishment. And maybe a watchman had seen civilization with the skin ripped off one time too many, and stopped acting like a watchman and started acting like a normal human being, and realised that the click of the crossbow or the sweep of the sword would make all the world so clean. And you couldn't think like that, even about vampires. Even though they take the lives of other people, because little lives don't matter, and what the hell can we take away from them? And you couldn't think like that because they gave you a sword and a badge, and that turned you into something else, and that had to mean there were some thoughts you couldn't think. Only crimes could take place in darkness. Punishment had to be done in the light. That was the job of a good watchman, Carrot always said, to light a candle in the dark. He found a cigar. Now his hands did the automatic search for matches. The volumes were piled up against the walls. The candlelight picked up gold lettering and the dull gleam of leather. There they were. The lineages, the books of heraldic minutiae, the who's whom of the centuries, the stock books of the city. People stood on them to look down. No matches. Quietly, in the dusty silence of the college, Vimes picked up a candelabrum and lit his cigar. He took a few deep, luxuriant puffs and looked thoughtfully at the books. In his hand, the candles spluttered and flickered. The clock ticked its arrhythmic tock. It finally stuttered its way to 1 o'clock, and Vimes got up and went into the oblong office. "Ah, Vimes," said Lord Vetinari, looking up. "Yes, sir." Vimes had managed a few hours' sleep, and had even attempted to shave. The patrician shuffled some papers on his desk. "It seems to have been a very busy night last night." "Yes, sir." Vimes stood to attention. All uniformed men knew in their very soul how to act in circumstances like this. You stared straight ahead, for one thing. "It appears that I have Dragon King of Arms in the cells," said the patrician. "Yes, sir." "I've read your report. Somewhat tenuous evidence, I feel." "Sir?" "One of your witnesses isn't even alive, Vimes." "No, sir." "Neither is the suspect, sir." Technically. He is, however, an important civic figure, an authority. Yes, sir. Lord Vetinari shuffled some of the papers on his desk. One of them was covered in sooty finger marks. It also appears I have to commend you, Commander. Sir? The heralds at the Royal College of Arms, or at least at what remains of the Royal College of Arms, have sent me a note saying how bravely you worked last night. Sir? Letting all those heraldic animals out of the pen and raising the alarm, and so forth. A tower of strength, they've called you. I gather most of the creatures are lodging with you at the present time. Yes, sir. Couldn't stand by and let them suffer, sir. We got some empty pens, sir, and Keith and Roderick are doing well in the lake. They've taken a liking to Sybil, sir. Lord Vetinari coughed. Then he stared up at the ceiling for a while. So you, assisted in the fire? Yes, sir. Civic duty, sir. The fire was caused by a candlestick falling over, I understand, possibly after your fight with Dragon King of Arms. So I believe, sir. And so, it seems, do the heralds. Anyone told Dragon King of Arms? Said Vimes innocently. Yes. Took it well, did he? He screamed a lot, Vimes. In a heartrending fashion, I am told. And I gather he uttered a number of threats against you for some reason. I shall try to fit him into my busy schedule, sir. Bingly bongly beep, said a small, bright voice. Vimes slapped a hand against his pocket. Lord Vetinari felt silent for a moment. His fingers drummed softly on his desk. Many fine old manuscripts in that place, I believe. Without price, I'm told. Yes, sir. Certainly worthless, sir. Is it possible you misunderstood what I just said, Commander? Could be, sir. The provenances of many splendid old families went up in smoke, Commander. Of course, the heralds will do what they can, and the families themselves keep records, but frankly, I understand it's all going to be patchwork and guesswork. Extremely embarrassing. Are you smiling, Commander? It's probably a trick of the light, sir. Commander, I always used to consider that you had a definite anti-authoritarian streak in you. Sir, it seems that you have managed to retain this even though you are authority. Sir, that's practically Zen. Sir? It seems I've only got to be unwell for a few days and you managed to upset everyone of any importance in this city. Sir? Was that a yes, sir, or a no, sir, Sir Samuel? It was just a sir. Sir. Lord Vetinari glanced at a piece of paper. Did you really punch the president of the Assassins' Guild? Yes, sir. Why? Didn't have a dagger, sir. Vetinari turned away abruptly. The Council of Churches, Temples, Sacred Groves, and Big Ominous Rocks is demanding, well, a number of things, several of them involving wild horses. Initially, however, they want me to sack you. Yes, sir? In all, I've had 17 demands for your badge. Some want parts of your body attached. Why did you have to upset everybody? I suppose it's a knack, sir. But what could you hope to achieve? Well, sir, since you ask, we found out who murdered Father Tubelcheck and Mr. Hopkinson and who was poisoning you, sir, said Vimes. He paused. 2 out of 3's not bad, sir. Veterinary riffled through the papers again. Workshop owners, assassins, priests, butchers. You seem to have infuriated most of the leading figures in the city. He sighed. Really, it seems I have no choice. As of this week, I am giving you a pay rise. Vimes blinked. Sir? Nothing unseemly. $10 a month. And I expect they need a new dartboard in the watch house. They usually do, I recall. It's detritus, said Vimes, his mind unable to think of anything other than an honest reply. He tends to split them. Ah, yes. And talking of splits, Vimes, I wonder if your forensic genius could help me with a little conundrum we found this morning. The patrician stood up and headed for the stairs. Yes, sir. What is it? Said Vimes, following him down. It's in the rat's chamber, Vimes. Really, sir? Veterinary pushed open the double doors. Voila, he said. Some kind of musical instrument, isn't it, sir? No, Commander. The word means, what is that in the table? Said the patrician sharply. Vimes looked into the room. There was no one there. The long mahogany table was bare. Except for the axe. It had embedded itself in the wood very deeply, almost splitting the table along its entire length. Someone had walked up to the table and brought an axe down right in the centre as hard as they could and then left it there, its handle pointing towards the ceiling. That's an axe, said Vimes. Astonishing, said Lord Veterinary, and you've barely had time to study it. Why is it there? I really couldn't say, sir. According to the servants, Sir Samuel, you came into the palace at 6 o'clock this morning. Oh, yes, sir. To check that the bastard was safely in a cell, sir. And to see that everything was all right, of course. You didn't come into this room? Vimes kept his gaze fixed somewhere on the horizon. Why should I have done that, sir? The patrician tapped the axe handle. It vibrated with a faint thumping noise. I believe some of the city council met in here this morning, or came in here at least. I am told they hurried out very quickly, looking rather disturbed, I'm told. Maybe it was one of them that did it, sir. That is, of course, a possibility, said Lord Veterinary. I suppose you won't be able to find one of your famous clues on the thing. Shouldn't think so, sir. Not with all these fingerprints on it. It would be a terrible thing, would it not, if people thought they could take the law into their own hands? Oh, no fear of that, sir. I'm holding on tightly to it. Lord Veterinary plunked the axe again. Tell me, Sir Samuel, do you know the phrase, quis custodiet ipsos custodes? It was an expression Carrot had occasionally used, but Vimes was not in the mood to admit anything. Can't say that I do, sir, he said. Something about trifle, is it? It means, who guards the guards themselves, Sir Samuel? Ah. Well, sir? Who watches the watch, I wonder? Oh, that's easy, sir. We watch one another. Really? An intriguing point. Lord Vetinari walked out of the room and back into the main hall, with Vines trailing behind. However, he said, in order to keep the peace, the golem will have to be destroyed. No, sir. Allow me to repeat my instruction. No, sir. I'm sure I just gave you an order, Commander. I distinctly felt my lips move. No, sir. He's alive, sir. He's just made of clay, Vimes. Aren't we all, sir? According to them pamphlets Constable Visit keeps handing out. Anyway, he thinks he's alive, and that's good enough for me. The patrician waved a hand towards the stairs in his office full of paper. Nevertheless, Commander, I've had no less than 9 missives from leading religious figures declaring that he is an abomination. Yes, sir. I've given that viewpoint a lot of thought, sir, and reached the following conclusion. Arseholes to the lot of them, sir. The patrician's hand covered his mouth for a moment. Sir Samuel, you are a harsh negotiator. Surely you can give and take? Couldn't say, sir. Vines walked to the main doors and pushed them open. Fog's lifted, sir, he said. There's a bit of cloud, but you can see all the way across the brass bridge. What will you use the golem for? Not use, sir. Employ. I thought he might be useful for to keep the peace, sir. A watchman? Yes, sir, said Vimes. Haven't you heard, sir? Golems do all the mucky jobs. Vetinari watched him go and sighed. He does so like a dramatic exit, he said. Yes, my lord, said Drumknot, who had appeared noiselessly at his shoulder. Ah, Drumknot. The patrician took a length of candle out of his pocket and handed it to his secretary. Dispose of this somewhere safely, will you? Yes, my lord. It's the candle from the other night. It's not burned down, my lord, but I saw the candle end in the holder. Oh, of course I cut off enough to make a stub and let the wick burn for a moment. I couldn't let our gallant policeman know I'd worked it out for myself, could I? Not when he was making such an effort and having so much fun being, well, being Vimes. I'm not completely heartless, you know. But, my lord, you could have sorted it out diplomatically. Instead, he went around upsetting things and making a lot of people very angry and afraid. Yes. Dear me. Ah, said Drumknot. Quite so, said the patrician. Do you wish me to have the table in the rat's chamber repaired? No, Drumknot, leave the axe where it is. It will make a good conversation piece, I think. May I make an observation, my lord? Of course you may, said Vetinari, watching Vimes walk through the palace gates. The thought occurs, sir, that if Commander Vimes did not exist, you would have had to invent him. You know, Drumknot, I rather think I did. Atheism is also a religious position, Dwarf rumbled. No, it's not, said Constable Visit. Atheism is a denial of a god. Therefore, it is a religious position, said Dwarf. Indeed, a true atheist thinks of the gods constantly, albeit in terms of denial. Therefore, atheism is a form of belief. If the atheist truly did not believe, he or she would not bother to deny. Did you read those pamphlets I gave you? Said Visit suspiciously. Yes. Many of them did not make sense, but I should like to read some more. Really? Said Visit. His eyes gleamed. You really want more pamphlets? Yes. There is much in them that I would like to discuss. If you know some priests, I would enjoy disputation. All right, said Sergeant Colon. So are you going to take the sodding oath or not, Dorf? Dorf held up a hand the size of a shovel. I, Dorf, pending the discovery of a deity whose existence withstands rational debate, swear by the temporary precepts of a self-derived moral system. You really want more pamphlets, said Constable Visit. Sergeant Colon rolled his eyes. Yes, said Dorf. Oh my God, said Constable Visit, and burst into tears. No one's ever asked for more pamphlets before. Colon turned when he realised Vimes was watching. It's no good, sir, he said. I've been trying to swear him in for half an hour, sir, and we keep ending up arguing about oaths and things. You willing to be a watchman, Dorf? Said Vimes. Yes. Right. That's as good as a swear to me. Give him his badge, Fred. And this is for you, Dorf. It's a chit to say you're officially alive, just in case you run into any trouble, you know, with people. Thank you, said Dorf solemnly. If ever I feel I am not alive, I will take this out and read it. What are your duties? Said Vimes. To serve the public trust, protect the innocent, and seriously prod buttock, sir, said Dorf. He learns fast, doesn't he? Said Colon. I didn't even tell him the last one. People won't like it, said Nobby. It's not going to be popular regarding him as a watchman. What better work for one who loves freedom than the job of watchman? Law is the servant of freedom. Freedom without limits is just a word, said Dorf ponderously. You know, said Colon, if it doesn't work out, you could always get a job making fortune cookies. Funny thing that, said Nobby. You never get bad fortunes in cookies. Ever noticed that? They never say stuff like, oh dear, things are going to be really bad. I mean, they're never misfortune cookies. Vimes lit a cigar and shook the match to put it out. That, Corporal, is because of one of the fundamental driving forces of the universe. What? Like people who read fortune cookies are the lucky ones? Said Nobby. No, because people who sell fortune cookies want to go on selling them. Come on, Constable Dorf. We're going for a walk. There's a lot of paperwork, sir, said Sergeant Colon. Tell Captain Carrot I said he should look at it, said Vimes from the doorway. He hasn't been in yet, sir. It'll keep. Right, sir. Colon went and sat behind his desk. It was a good place to be, he decided. There was absolutely no chance of finding any nature there. He'd had a rare conversation with Mrs. Colon this morning and made it clear that he was no longer interested in getting close to the soil because he'd been as close to the soil as it was possible to get. And the soil, it turned out, was just dirt. A good thick layer of cobblestones was, he decided, about as close as he wanted to get to nature. Also, nature tended to be squishy. I've got to go on duty, said Nobby. Captain Carrot wants me to do crime prevention in Peach Pie Street. How'd you do that then? Said Colon. Keep away, he said. Here, Nobby, what's this about you not being a lord after all? Said Colon cautiously. I think I got the sack, said Nobby. Bit of a relief, really. That Nobby grub isn't much, and a drink is frankly piss. Lucky escape for you then, said Colon. I mean, you won't have to go giving your clothes away to gardeners and so on. Yeah. Wish I never told them about the damn ring, really. Would have saved you a lot of trouble, certainly, said Colon. Nobby spat on his badge and buffed it industriously with his sleeve. It's a good job I never told them about the tiara, the coronet, and the 3 gold lockets, he said to himself. Where are we going? Said Dwarf as Vimes strolled across the brass bridge. I thought I might break you in gently with some guard duty at the palace, said Vimes. Ah, this is where my new friend Constable Visit is also on guard, said Dwarf. Splendid. I wish to ask you a question, said the golem. Yes? I smashed the treadmill, but the golems repaired it. Why? And I let the animals go, but they just milled around stupidly. Some of them even went back to the slaughter pens. Why? Welcome to the world, Constable Dwarf. Is it frightening to be free? You said it. You say to people, throw off your chains, and they make new chains for themselves? Seems to be a major human activity, yes. Dwarf rumbled as he thought about this. Yes, he said eventually. I can see why. Freedom is like having the top of your head opened up. I'll have to take your word for that, Constable. And you will pay me twice as much as other watchmen, said Dwarf. Will I? Yes. I do not sleep. I can work constantly. I am a bargain. I do not need days off to bury my granny. How soon they learn, thought Vimes. He said, but you have holy days off, don't you? Either all days are holy or none are. I have not decided yet. What do you need money for, Dwarf? I shall save up and purchase the golem Klutz who labours in the pickle factory and give him to himself. Then, together, we will earn and save for the golem Bobkes of the coal merchant. The 3 of us will labour and buy the golem Schmatter who toils at the $7 tailors in Peach Pie Street. Then the 4 of us will... Some people might decide to free their comrades by force and bloody revolution, said Vimes. Not that I'm suggesting that in any way, of course. No, that would be theft. We are bought and sold. So we will buy ourselves free, by our labour. No one else to do it for us. We will do it by ourselves. Vimes smiled to himself. Probably no other species in the world would demand a receipt with their freedom. Some things you just couldn't change. Ah, he said, it seems some people want to talk to us. A crowd was approaching over the bridge in a mass of grey, black and saffron robes. It was made up of priests. They looked angry. As they pushed and shoved their way through the other citizens, several halos became interlocked. At their head was Hunon Ridcully, chief priest of Blind Io, and the closest thing Ankh-Morpork had to a spokesman on religious issues. He spotted Vimes and hurried towards him, admonitory finger upraised. Now, see here, Vimes, he began, and stopped. He glared at Dwarf. Is this it? He said. If you mean the golem, this is him, said Vimes. Constable Dwarf, your reverence. Dwarf touched his helmet respectfully. How may we be of assistance? He said. You've done it this time, Vimes, said Ridcully, ignoring him. You've gone altogether too far by half. You've made the thing speak and it isn't even alive. We want it smashed. Blasphemy. People won't stand for it. Ridcully looked around at the other priests. I'm talking, he said. He turned back to Vimes. This comes under the heading of gross profanity and the worship of idols. I don't worship him. I'm just employing him, said Vimes, beginning to enjoy himself. And he's far from idle. He took a deep breath. And if it's gross profanity you're looking for, excuse me, said Dwarf. We're not listening to you. You're not even really alive, said a priest. Dwarf nodded. This is fundamentally true, he said. See? He admits it. I suggest you take me and smash me and grind the bits into fragments and pound the fragments into powder and mill them again to the finest dust there can be. And I believe you will not find a single atom of life. True. Let's do it. However, in order to test this fully, one of you must volunteer to undergo the same process. There was silence. That's not fair, said the priest after a while. All anyone has to do is bake up your dust again and you'll be alive. There was more silence. Ridcully said, Is it only me, or are we on tricky theological ground here? There was more silence. Another priest said, Is it true you said you'll believe in any god whose existence can be proved by logical debate? Yes. Vimes had a feeling about the immediate future and took a few steps away from Dwarf. But the gods plainly do exist, said a priest. It is not evident. A bolt of lightning lanced through the clouds and hit Dwarf's helmet. There was a sheet of flame and then a trickling noise. Dwarf's molten armour formed puddles around his white-hot feet. I don't call that much of an argument, said Dwarf calmly from somewhere in the clouds of smoke. It's tended to carry the audience, said Vimes. Up until now. The chief priest of Blind Iode turned to the other priests. All right, you fellows, there's no need for any of that. But Offler is a vengeful god, said a priest at the back of the crowd. Trigger happy is what he is, said Ridcully. Another lightning bolt zigzagged down, but bent at right angles a few feet above the chief priest's hat and earthed itself on a wooden hippo, which split. The chief priest smiled smugly and turned back to Dwarf, who was making little clinking noises as he cooled. So what you're saying is you'll accept the existence of any god only if it can be proved by discussion? Yes, said Dwarf. Ridcully rubbed his hands together. Not a problem, Meal China, he said. First, let us take the... Excuse me, said Dwarf. He bent down and picked up his badge. The lightning had given it an interesting melted shape. What are you doing? Said Ridcully. Somewhere a crime is happening, said Dwarf. But when I am off duty, I will gladly dispute with the priest of the most worthy god. He turned and strode on across the bridge. Vimes nodded hurriedly at the shocked priests and ran after him. We took him and baked him in the fire and he's turned out to be free, he thought. No words in the head except the ones he's chosen to put there himself. And he's not just an atheist, he's a ceramic atheist. Fireproof. It looked like being a good day. Behind them on the bridge, a fight was breaking out. Angua was packing. Or rather, she was failing to pack. The bundle couldn't be too heavy to carry by mouth. But a little money, she wouldn't have to buy much food, and a change of clothes, for those occasions when she might have to wear clothes, didn't have to take up much room. The boots are a problem, she said aloud. Maybe if you knot the laces together, you could carry them round your neck, said Cherie, who was sitting on the narry bed. Good idea. Do you want these dresses? I've never got round to wearing them. I expect you could cut them down. Cherie took them in both arms. This one's silk. And there's probably enough material for you to make 2 for 1. Do you mind if I share them out? Only some of the lads, the ladies at the watch house, Cherie savoured the word ladies, are beginning to get a bit thoughtful. Going to melt down their helmets, are they? Said Angua. Oh no, but perhaps they could be made into a more attractive design. Yes. Cherie shifted uneasily. You've never actually eaten anyone, have you? You know, crunching bones and so on? No. I mean, I only heard my second cousin was eaten by werewolves. He was called Sven. Can't say I recall the name, said Angua. Cherie tried to grin. That's all right then, she said. So you won't need that silver spoon in your pocket, said Angua. Cherie's mouth dropped open, and then the words tumbled over themselves. I don't know how it got there. It must have dropped in when I was washing up. Oh, I didn't mean... It doesn't worry me, honestly. I'm used to it. But I didn't think you... Look, don't get the wrong idea. It's not a case of not wanting to, said Angua. It's a case of wanting to and not doing it. You don't really have to go, do you? Oh, I don't know if I can take the watch seriously, and sometimes I think Carrot's working up to ask me, and, well, it'd never work out. It's the way he just assumes everything, you know? So, best to go now, Angua lied. Won't Carrot try to stop you? Yes, but there's nothing he can say. He'll be upset. Yes, said Angua briskly, throwing another dress on the bed, and then he'll get over it. Rolf Triebout has asked me out, said Cherie shyly, looking at the floor, and I'm almost certain he's male. Glad to hear it. Cherie stood up. I'll walk with you as far as the watch house. I've got to go on duty. They were halfway along Elm Street before they saw Carrot, head and shoulders above the crowd. Looks like he was coming to see you, said Cherie. Shall I go away? Too late. Ah, good morning, Corporal Miss Littlebottom, said Carrot cheerfully. Hello, Angua. I was just coming to see you, but I had to write my letter home first, of course. He took off his helmet and smoothed his hair back. He began. I know what you're going to ask, said Angua. You do? I know you've been thinking about it. You knew I was wondering about going. It was obvious, was it? And the answer's no. I wish it could be yes. Carrot looked astonished. Never occurred to me that you'd say no, he said. I mean, why should you? Good grief, you two amaze me, she said. You really do. I thought it'd be something you'd want to do, said Carrot. He sighed. Oh, well, it doesn't matter, really. Angua felt that a leg had been kicked away. It doesn't matter, she said. I mean, yes, it'd have been nice, but I won't lose any sleep over it. You won't? Well, No, obviously not. You've just got other things you want to do. That's fine. I just thought you might enjoy it. I'll do it by myself. What? How can... Angua stopped. What are you talking about, Carrot? The Dwarf Bread Museum. I promised Mr. Hopkinson's sister that I'd tidy it up. You know, get it sorted out. She's not very well off, and I thought it could raise some money. Just between you and me, there's several exhibits in there that could be better presented, but I'm afraid Mr. Hopkinson was rather set in his ways. I'm sure there's a lot of dwarves in the city that would flock there if they knew about it, and of course there's a lot of youngsters that ought to learn more about their proud heritage. A good dusting and a lick of paint would make all the difference, I'm sure, especially on the older loaves. I don't mind giving up a few days off. I just thought it might cheer you up, but I appreciate that bread isn't everyone's cup of tea. Angua stared at him. It was the stare that Carrot so often attracted. It roamed every feature of his face, looking for the tiniest clue that he was making some kind of joke. Some long, deep joke at the expense of everyone else. Every sinew in her body knew that he must be, but there was not a clue, not a twitch to prove it. Yes, she said weakly, still searching his face. I expect it could be a little gold mine. Museums have got to be a whole lot more interesting these days. And you know, there's a whole gorilla crumpet assortment that he hasn't even catalogued, said Carrot. And some early examples of defensive bagels. Gosh, said Angua. Hey, why don't we paint a big sign saying something like the Dwarf Bread Experience? That probably wouldn't work for dwarfs, said Carrot, oblivious to sarcasm. A dwarf bread experience tends to be short, but I can see it certainly caught your imagination. I'll have to go, Angua thought as they strolled on down the street. Sooner or later, he'll see that it can't really work out. Werewolves and humans, we've both got too much to lose. Sooner or later, I'll have to leave him. But for one day at a time, let it be tomorrow. Want the dresses back? Said Cherie behind her. Maybe one or two, said Angua. The end.
Woo!
That was so much fun.
Good.
Like all of the endings were so satisfying.
Yes.
Oh my god, oh my face hurts from smiling.
I love that you gave Red Cully the voice of Boris Johnson.
I was like screaming when, because I read this but a long time ago, and he told you, you already know that the patrician is like just in control of everything and has everything in the bag. And then like he totally makes you believe that there's something that's got past him, and like thank goodness Vimes was there to save the day and the patrician didn't really know what was going on, and then he's like I was like screaming at my computer. It was so good.
Yeah. So goddamn good. So goddamn.
I love the conversation.
Discordian.
Oh, I think that was two people at once. What was that? Oh, Duncan go and whoever else.
What were you saying?
Jen, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, I was just saying how much I love the conversations between Veterinary and Vimes. like the bit like without price and it's certainly worthless. So love it. Every time it makes me crack up.
So good.
The
Like
whole conversation.
Yeah, get a room, guys.
I
Get a
know.
room. Stop flirting.
Also, how many things can you say by just saying, "Sir"?
Yeah.
And what's amazing is that's written. Like,
Yeah.
we're getting all that tone from you, but...
Yeah, like when you read it on the page, it still just like leaps out and hits you in the face. Good. So good.
Also, I noted there were a lot of conversations that weren't about candles that had light-related puns in them, and I do occasionally think, Terry, did you just have a few left over? Needed to go somewhere.
I'm pretty sure his writing process started with a list of puns, and then he hung a story around it.
He was
I
afraid.
feel like the first book feels like that.
Yeah.
Like latterly they don't feel so much quite like that, but the first one just feels like a series of one-liners strung together into a story.
Have you read Soul Music? Because of course one of the characters is named right up at the beginning of the book entirely for a one-line pun about 2/3 of the way in.
Which one? Which character?
Glod.
Oh.
So entirely so they can turn up and say, "We're on a mission from Glod," which is a Blues Brothers reference, but he set the thing up 200 pages earlier. So it just flowed in.
Oh, Terry.
Bastard.
So fucking good. So fucking good.
Also, I just loved how the golem was like, "Yes, we can discuss this on my day off."
I first read that line about I don't call that much of an argument when I was like 12, and it has been like seared into my brain ever since. I love it so much.
Yeah, if I ever get into like a fight, you know, like a fist fight with somebody, and I actually get punched, I hope that I have the wherewithal to stand up and say, I don't call that much of an argument.
Well,
if that happens and any of you are there and you see that like this is heading towards physical violence, just remind me. Just be like, I think this is going to be
lightning bolt.
The cord.
I think, Frankie, I may say something like, "Frankie, we can't just take your powdered remains and bake you in an oven to bring you back to life."
Or can we?
Or can you?
For science.
Could we, in
prepared to
fact,
try
take your
anything for
powdered
science.
remains and plant it in several places?
Is powdered remains a euphemism that I'm not getting?
No. That's pounded remains.
Gross.
Michael.
Grizzly. So important point. Who is everyone's favourite character? And we have cast this. We have cast this. I think we've done most of the casting required here.
In retrospect, though, I realized today that I probably relate more closely to Dorval in terms of Rory must work. Rory must have a master.
Oh,
babe.
Well,
then no masters.
But you are like also have like very strongly held kind of internally chosen moral precepts and are strong as fuck.
New wrestling persona.
And Team Detritus.
Yes, Detritus is so good.
I love Detritus so much. I loved your voice for it.
Which reminds me, how do you feel, Frankie, about like some sort of Patreon reward system where you will say the line of people's choice in the voice of a character of their choice from your latest reading?
I will definitely and can definitely do that. If anyone would like that as like a Christmas present. let me know, and I will like record it and DM it to you.
Well, I think Neville wants a recording of you doing the little imp reminder noise.
Well, I was gonna do that like without permission and make it my phone noise. But...
Yes.
Please do.
If I ever put my phone on silent, I would do that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Angela to come on and say, "Is everybody sitting comfortably?"
I can do that one as well. Neville, if you do end up making that as a ringtone, is there a way that you can like post it on the group
as like a download?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Back to the previous conversation. Although I still greatly identify with Cherie, Jen made me very aware that I'm also very much a carrot the other day when she repeated the line to me, "You're being reasonable again."
What an incredibly wholesome like pair of characters to be at the intersection of. That's amazing.
It's canon that Jen is Angua.
I've at least got the shit ton of hair.
Yeah.
I was going to say you do have fabulous hair.
Yeah,
we're at least between us we make a werewolf. Yeah.
I still think maybe veterinary it's got to be maybe joint veterinary and Vimes, like in the entire Discworld canon. I can't get over how much I love them.
Really, Vimes?
Yeah, I love Vimes. Oh yeah, yeah. Jen knows. Jen knows.
I don't get it at all. He's an absolute arsewipe.
What?
I mean,
what are you talking about?
Just quiet, boring.
Vimes is how Vimes is how Pratchett speaks right through the books. That's his political moral compass, like written into his stories.
Mm-hmm.
Burn the books.
I really like that Vimes is deeply self-aware. To me, that counts for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, my ideal like fantasy man is absolutely the kind of guy who would go into a room full of like guild members and then bury a fucking hatchet in the floor.
Yeah, and he's like scruffy and unshaven and like smokes a cigar and fires crossbows at people he shouldn't. And
I remember
he's also that like
and fights with the absolute dictator of the city.
He wasn't very kind to the young woman whose gran and like the little boy had died. He was like not very compassionate.
That's true. He's not a perfect person, but I would definitely tap that. Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
But he was also quite aware that he was doing a bad job of it. It was basically like, I know that I should do a good job of this here. I just don't have that skill right now.
Yeah, I really love that one when he's interviewing her and she says like, "Oh, I just took the food. It's not stealing." And then there's that line, "It is," he thought to himself treacherously.
But yeah,
stop those thoughts. That happens.
Yeah. Tris, what were you going to say, my love?
What were you going to say, Frankie? Because you were also going to say something.
I was going to say, what were you going to say, Tris? So we could go back and forth like this for a while.
I say way too much. Somebody else should say something. I was going to say, Vimes is like an example of, like, another thing I love about him is, if you find the right job, you could be Vimes. Like, he would have been some, like, nobody, like, baker or potter or, like, but he found the job that he was, like, literally written for. And like it shows through in everything about him as a person, and he becomes like important because he finds his passion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or was it because that Nari created him?
I mean, there's another book which covers Vimes' origin story in detail. So.
When you were discussing Vimes on the Facebook thread about the TV show, I was quite fascinated that some people see Vimes as a super detective, because I never have. He's not a very good detective. He's not super bright. He doesn't pick up on clues super fast. He's just totally honest, totally uncorruptible, and he's just not going to stop till he's damn well got there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's not that he's like not bright or not fast. He's like, you know, he's not like a super detective, but he's like, I definitely don't think that he's kind of like sort of like dull in any way. Like, you know, I think he sort of thinks about things and he makes the deductive leaps and what have you. And like you as a reader don't get there before Vimes. Like, it's not kind of supposed to be that we know what's going on. We've been able to work it out and he's still plodding along. Like, I think he sort of his mind works at like a little faster than the mind of the reader. But yeah, like it's not that he's like, you know, Sherlock Holmes style.
Gets sharper books as well, though I suspect as he gets more sober.
Yeah, exactly. He keeps an open mind. Yeah.
Please. Well, you said Sherlock Holmes style and talking about types of detectives. Anybody who likes computer games, you should play Disco Elysium.
What is this?
Disco Elysium is a role-playing game where you play a cop in a sort of alternate universe, 50s-ish. You have some weird skills. So when I woke up, one of my skills started arguing with me that I should definitely find more alcohol. And my like self-preservation skill kicked in and said, that's a terrible idea. You should go cold today. It's killing you. But I put a lot of points into the savoir-faire skill for this, like for my character. So it won the argument and was like, yeah, definitely. And I got a quest to go and find some alcohol because that was definitely a good thing, according to my skills, which are like voices in my head that argue with me about how I should solve the case.
Sounds wild.
You can play Sherlock Holmes if you have like a really high perception and intellect, and I have a really high psyche. So instead, I had an argument with the corpse about why it was racist, that I assumed that the corpse was a particular type of person, when really it could have been anyone, and probably the people who killed it weren't this type of thing because like this thing explains that. Yeah, it's nuts. Like if you want to try different detective styles and you like computer games, then play Disco Elysium.
You've earned your commission there, Tris. Oh, I've just seen that going. That's the nicest thing. For the catch-up crew, Michael says that my beard makes me look like I should be captaining a pirate ship, and I'm very happy to read that. Maybe I'll keep it forever. Maybe I'll keep it forever.
Tattoo.
Yar.
Oh, we should say goodbye to the catch-up crew before I forget. Catch-up crew. I hope you have enjoyed this book. That's all I got. Hope you've enjoyed this book. We love you. Love you very much. This is for you. May all of your brandy glasses be almost overflowing and none of your candles be poisoned. Okay, good night. Good night, catch-up crew. Good night. Good night.